Who said Warner's?
I heard it on that radio there.
Radio's wrong.
I think the downside to being as prolific as Steven Spielberg is when you produce something that isn't a certified banger, the audience is not gonna go easy. Coming off of Close Encounters and Jaws, I guess that makes sense, and followed by Raiders and E.T., 1941 sits in the middle of debatably his biggest films. Is that the reason it was so disliked and soon forgotten? Is this movie actually underrated? Kinda. It may be the reason we never again saw a comedic Spielberg movie, but in all honesty, it's not that bad. This and The Lost World Jurassic Park tend to come up as his fuck-ups, but while the latter had to attend with the original, 1941 really does feel like they wanted his run to end. That may sound a bit cynical, but it's put down so often, and I don't think it's that bad. Starring John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Christopher Lee, and an assembled cast, the movie focuses on the chaotic events in Los Angeles after the December attacks on Pearl Harbor. Mayhem definitely defines the movie, and while that is to its detriment as the pacing is probably the biggest issue, it's still real damn fun and not void of comedy. It's a hard thing to break down, and the intro doesn't really help, but it does give you a good idea of what's in store. I'm pretty sure it's trying to reference something, some other Spielberg movie that kickstarted his career. I can't currently place it. And like the scene from the movie that I can't place, the girl is again played by Susan Backlany. Honestly, I kind of love this intro. And opposed to an aquatic sea creature, she's picked up by a Japanese sub. Taking place 6 days after Pearl Harbor, we see they got Christopher Lee to be in this. I could argue he's not needed, but that's okay. And they want to destroy something honorable in Los Angeles. Not many options, so they decide on Hollywood. Not well versed in American culture, I can see, but the intro does give us the right feel. It's obvious they don't really know what they're doing, they're just doing it to do it. I think it may describe Spielberg's thought process when he made this. Also, I think this bit's age well. And to those who find this whole scene offensive for a number of reasons, grow up. We cut to a scene of random nonsense for the sake of random nonsense, and the 10th Armored Division M3 Elite Tank Crew having breakfast. Bobby DeSico plays Wally, who is planning to enter a dance contest at the club that evening. Sarchisky, played by Trent Williams, doesn't like him for no reason. And despite the attempts at comedy in this scene being rather stupid, for some reason it does work. I like how one of them starts dumping out napkins upon being told to hurry. This line is kind of funny.
You're gonna end up with a record you can't play on that jukebox! Pop! I ain't your pop!
And his girlfriend Betty, played by Deanna Kaye, is introduced in a scene that's probably very sexist. Speaking of sexism, we're given a scene with even more of that by today's standards.
Hi, girls! Your first air raid? Boy, you two sisters!
Get lost, Harlow!
You're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur.
Gonna get some advertisement here. And if you're enjoying the chaotic nature of this movie, I give you John Belushi as Captain Wild Bill Kelso. Yes, that's what he calls himself. And you can dislike this movie, that's understandable, but you can't deny that every scene he's in is fucking hilarious.
Stop that plane!
I'm lost.
It's war.
It's pure and simply chaotic fun. The only thing is, we maybe could have used more of him. I don't know, he doesn't really affect the plot that much until the end, but the thing is, that's kind of the idea. A lot of characters in this have no real purpose. For example, Slim Pickens as Hollis P. Wood. His scenes, despite being pretty funny, affected nothing. And for John Belushi, you could say the same thing. Fact is, his scenes are the highlight, you can't deny that, but while more of him may have added some comedy, it may have also been too much. Can't really say, but for what it is, it's pretty damn good. As is this subplot that affects almost nothing. Captain Loomis Burkhead, played by Tim Matheson, again, not up to today's standards.
You're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur.
Is obsessed with Donna Stratton, played by Nancy Allen, who is obsessed with planes. I mean, obsessed.
No man has ever gotten to first base with her on the ground. But get her into a plane, she'll bat your balls right out of the park.
Yes, that is the plot here. Donna is sexually aroused by planes, and Loomis is going to take advantage of that. All I can say is, it is what it is.
think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur.
Maybe you're okay with it, maybe you think it's diminishing, maybe you think it's stupid, you can't really tell. Problem is, she doesn't actually like Loomis at this point, and his attempts to lie about being able to fly and overly clear comparisons to sex.
It's got a lot of range. I mean, it can stay up for a long time. And it's built firm and solid. And when this baby delivers its payload, devastating.
Do seem to be working.
How would you like me to show you the cockpit?
But without actually taking off, it isn't enough. This leads to mayhem, make the connection. Meanwhile, we find out Betty's father, played by Ned Beatty, doesn't like Wally, and given she's become a USO hostess, they're only allowed to dance with servicemen, as nobody else is allowed in the club. By the way, it's a Christmas movie, so given that Tukerski doesn't like Wally either, it makes things rather inconvenient. And they also want to install an anti-aircraft battery in their yard, as it's the ideal spot, which will surely affect something, as will this. Claude, played by Murray Hamilton, and Herbie, played by the Polar Express Kid, are tasked with spending the entire movie on the amusement park Ferris wheel and observing for enemy aircraft. And yes, Edward Deason is basically the same character.
We don't need no safety bar. What happens if we have to jump?
So again, I can't deny the abundance of pointless scenes. This is irrelevant to the plot in any way, but dare I say, the comedy with the scene is kind of intelligent. It starts out potentially annoying, but the fact that he almost immediately tells him to shut up about the heights makes it more authentic.
Boy, I sure hope the wind starts.
Just shut up!
Then you have the dummy, that proceeds to do the same thing.
Scared of heights, huh? Me too.
It may be irrelevant, but you can't say it's all bad. But you know what really isn't irrelevant? The like button. It's important that you hit that, and subscribing is a big deal too. Nowadays, without people sharing videos, you kind of get nowhere. The algorithm seems to have quit doing a thing. And if you don't care, I have a gaming channel too, for the same thing, but with games. Link in the description. So Burkhead's still determined to get Donna in a plane, makes up an excuse to borrow one from a mentally unstable colonel. Wally and his friend devise a plan to sneak in by buying a costume, or in his case, stealing one, leading him and Sartarsky to get into a fight. It's again pretty entertaining. I guess he could actually dance, so it makes for a fun scene. He gets found out though, one thing leads to another, and you know the rest. By that I mean the movie from this point on, which is a bit less than half, is complete mayhem, and some of it works. On one hand, we have Burkhead and Donna engaging in sexual activities. While on the plane, he can't really fly, and due to him failing to identify himself, they assume they're Japanese and open fire on them while Kelso pursues. The brawl in the street continues until Aykroyd breaks it up. I like how this bit with the train just cuts away, not showing what happened. The general's obsession with Dumbo is a nice touch, and the pursuit through the city does look pretty good. It feels unique to this movie, probably the most memorable scene, but obviously, there is a pacing issue. Upon crash landing in the tar pits, you really don't see them again until the end, though I do like that it works out for them, and there's still about a half hour left. The whole thing does feel a bit disjointed, it could have been done better, and when you focus the movie so much around chaos and mayhem, this tends to happen. I still say it's a lot of fun, but I can see why some don't like it. Also, Dan Aykroyd goes insane. You guessed it, no purpose. I think it's clear Sartarsky is kind of a rapist now.
I don't fight fair.
Neither do I.
After this, Kelso crash lands in, and heads to the dock on a bike. They put Wally in charge now, because he has the outfit, and upon spotting a Japanese sub, Ward decides to finally use the gun. And as you can imagine, despite destroying the entire house completely, this accomplishes nothing. Again, that's supposed to be the joke, and the fact that he doesn't realize what he's doing isn't working is pretty damn funny. It's nonsensical, it's ridiculous, but that's okay. Christopher Lee gets his mandatory death. They disagree about something. Even in a Spielberg comedy, he isn't safe. We have to bring up this incredibly racist joke.
Hey, get in the back of the tank!
And for some reason, Ward sends his son to get the two off the Ferris wheel, in which he accidentally turns the park on, causing the Japanese to think they found Hollywood, and upon dislodging the Ferris wheel, we saw that coming, and watching it sink, they determine that they've won. They finally arrive in the tank to go to the end of the dock and immediately get blown up, so that was pointless, but they're okay. And on a somewhat odd note, Kelso swims out there, gets captured, and that's it. Doesn't get brought up again, a bit of a disappointment there, but for his character, I guess it fits. We end with everybody at the wrecked house, and while there's a number of details to note here, the dummy's head getting ripped off, the house still lighting up as it falls off the cliff, again some good detail, but I wonder if anybody noticed this. Her expressions, the sound effects, a hint that that was the idea. This couldn't get made today. We're reminded that Spielberg did in fact make this, which upon my first viewing when I was trying to find something to watch during the pandemic, I did not know that. Really surprising. I can definitely see why Spielberg never tried redoing this. It'd be like Schwarzenegger making another Christmas movie, not ideal, but unless you get offended by war being portrayed comedically, it's still worth watching. A lot of it is really damn funny, and the chaotic scenes are done in a fun way. A bit too stupid at times, a bit overly unrealistic, but not so much that I can't overlook that, and like it for what it is. The main problem is the pacing, it's not done the best. A lot of characters literally do nothing, and could have probably been cut. Maybe Belushi could have done a bit more, I can't completely say. But to call it the worst Spielberg movie, even with his legacy, I can't say that. It's definitely not high up, but if he did attempt something like this again, I wouldn't be complaining. Fact is, it's a fun movie, doesn't make any sense, it's incredibly stupid, but if it's for fun, who cares? Not the peak of his career, offensive by today's standards, but again, who cares? Really, just who cares? I'm the analyst, and remember kids, pacing isn't always needed, but it can help, I guess. So, you've made it to the end. That's an impressive feat indeed. Since you managed that, I guess check out the gaming channel, in which I cover a variety of gaming topics, like analysis videos, such as this one. If you're into that, then press the link in the description. It's that simple.